In the vast plateau between the Caspian Sea and the Persian Gulf, a civilization was forged that would become the bridge between East and West. It is a land of paradoxes, a place where the world's first human rights charter was written, but also where absolute monarchs ruled with iron fists. It is a story of fire temples and mosques, of silk roads and oil fields. This is the story of how a culture refused to die, no matter how many empires tried to bury it. 1. The birth of the King of Kings. In the 6th century BCE, the world was a fragmented landscape of warring kingdoms. From the rugged mountains of Pars, Cyrus the Great emerged to redefine the concept of empire. By uniting the Persians and Medes and toppling the Babylonian Empire, he established the Achaemenid Empire, the first of its kind. Cyrus was a visionary conqueror who rejected the slash-and-burn tactics of his predecessors. Instead, he championed religious and cultural tolerance. Upon entering Babylon in 539 BCE, he famously liberated the Jewish people from their long captivity, allowing them to return to Jerusalem and rebuild. This legacy of benevolence was immortalized on the Cyrus cylinder, a clay artifact widely regarded as the world's first charter of human rights. His successor, Cyrus the Great, elevated this realm into the world's first global superpower. Recognizing that an empire stretching from India to Egypt required sophisticated management, Darius implemented a revolutionary infrastructure. He constructed the Royal Road, a 1,600-mile highway, with relay stations that allowed messengers to travel the empire in just 7 days, a trip that used to take months. To maintain order across diverse territories, Darius established a centralized bureaucracy governed by satraps and introduced a universal currency, the daric. This administrative genius ensured that the King of Kings could effectively rule over approximately 40% of the entire human population. From the breathtaking beauty of Persepolis, the Achaemenids ushered in an era of unprecedented stability, global trade, and cultural synthesis that set the standard for every empire that followed. 2. The Macedonian Storm and the Greek Intermission. No empire is truly invincible, no matter how huge it is or how much history it has behind it. In 334 BCE, a young and remarkably ambitious king from Macedonia, known to history as Alexander the Great, crossed the Hellespont into Asia. Through a series of brilliant, lightning-fast military campaigns, he systematically dismantled the sophisticated Achaemenid administrative and military machine. The subsequent fall and destruction of Persepolis in 330 BCE remains a profound milestone of historical tragedy. The crown jewel of the Persian world was burned to the ground, signaling the end of an era. Alexander's sudden death left this vast, conquered territory in the hands of his Greek generals, eventually forming the Seleucid Empire. These Macedonian rulers attempted to plant the seeds of Hellenism deep into Persian soil, constructing Greek theaters, agoras, and gymnasiums in the heart of Central Asia. For a brief period, the regional culture became a fascinating hybrid of Eastern traditions and Western philosophies. However, the resilient Persian spirit was not extinguished. It was merely dormant. The geopolitical tide turned with the rise of the Parthians, a group of fierce nomadic horsemen from the northeast. They achieved military fame by mastering the Parthian shot, a legendary tactic where horse archers would feign a panicked retreat, only to turn 180 degrees in their saddles and fire deadly, accurate arrows at their enemies. These warriors gradually wore down the Greek Seleucids and eventually emerged as the primary rival to the burgeoning Roman Empire. For several centuries, the known world existed as a stable bipolar system, divided between Rome in the west and Parthia in the east. With the lucrative Silk Road running directly through the center of their territory, the Parthians became the wealthy, indispensable gatekeepers of global trade and cultural exchange. 3. The Sassanid Renaissance. In 224 CE, a formidable new dynasty arose to reclaim the lost Achaemenid legacy, the Sassanids. This era represented the definitive golden age of Neo-Persian culture, characterized by a proud nationalistic revival. The Sassanid monarchs viewed themselves as the legitimate heirs of Cyrus and Darius, and to solidify this identity, they established Zoroastrianism as the official state religion. This ancient faith, centered on the cosmic struggle between Ahura Mazda and Ahriman, deeply influenced the moral, legal, and ethical framework of the entire empire. The Sassanid court at Ctesiphon, featuring the magnificent vaulted arch of Tak Khasra, was a global marvel of luxury and advanced learning. While Western Europe was fracturing into the early Middle Ages, Iran flourished as a vibrant center of philosophy, medicine, and art. The Sassanids founded the Academy of Gundashapur, which became perhaps the most significant intellectual hub of the ancient world, where Greek, Indian, and Persian knowledge merged. Military prowess was equally central to their identity. The Sassanid Savaran, heavy cavalry, became the elite backbone of their army, allowing them to fight the powerful Byzantine Empire to a strategic standstill for centuries. However, this relentless cycle of constant warfare and heavy taxation eventually left both the Sassanid and Byzantine giants physically and economically exhausted. As these two superpowers looked warily at each other across their fortified borders, they remained completely oblivious to the revolutionary storm gathering in the southern deserts. This exhaustion would soon pave the way for a transformative shift that would alter the course of Persian history forever. 4. The Crescent and the Sword, the Islamic Conquest. The 7th century brought a profound and lasting trauma that would redefine the identity of Iran forever. Arab armies, unified by the fervent new faith of Islam and a vision of expansion, swept out of the Arabian Peninsula with unexpected speed. The once mighty Sassanid Empire, already physically and financially exhausted by centuries of grinding warfare against the Byzantines, collapsed with surprising rapidity after key defeats at the battles of Qadisiyah and Nahavand. By 651 CE, Yazdegerd III, the last Sassanid king of kings, was dead, and the vast Persian plateau was fully integrated into the rapidly growing Islamic Caliphate. This event was significantly more than a mere political conquest. It initiated a total social and spiritual transformation of the region. However, a famous historical irony soon emerged, often summarized as, "The Arabs conquered Iran, but the Persians conquered the Arabs." As the Caliphate expanded, it required sophisticated systems to govern. Persians, with their millennia of administrative experience, became the essential bureaucrats, the visionary poets, and the pioneering scientists of the legendary Islamic Golden Age. Scholars like Avicenna, often hailed as the father of modern medicine, and Al-Khwarizmi, whose mathematical breakthroughs gave the world algebra, utilized the deep Persian intellectual tradition to advance the boundaries of human knowledge. Crucially, while much of the Middle East became Arabic-speaking, Iran stubbornly held on to its linguistic roots. In the 10th century, the poet Ferdowsi spent 30 dedicated years writing the Shahnameh, or Book of Kings. This massive epic revived the Persian language and preserved the ancient legends of pre-Islamic heroes like Rostam. Ferdowsi's monumental work ensured that while Iranians were now predominantly Muslim, they remained undeniably and culturally Persian, a distinction that preserved the nation's unique soul for the coming millennia. 5. The Mongol Cataclysm. While the Arab conquest functioned as a profound social transformation, the arrival of the 13th century represented nothing short of a total apocalypse for the Iranian world. From the harsh, expansive steppes of Central Asia, Genghis Khan and his relentless Mongol hordes descended upon the Persian plateau with unprecedented ferocity. Ancient cities that had stood for centuries as global beacons of science, philosophy, and literature, most notably Merv and Nishapur, were systematically razed to the ground. The human cost was staggering, with millions slaughtered in a matter of years. Beyond the loss of life, the Mongols targeted the very foundation of Persian survival: the sophisticated Qanat systems. These intricate underground irrigation networks, which had successfully kept the arid plateau fertile for millennia, were intentionally destroyed, effectively turning lush orchards and vibrant agricultural hubs into barren deserts. Yet, in a testament to the resilience of Iranian identity, the Persianizing effect took hold once again. The subsequent Mongol Ilkhanate eventually converted to Islam and, remarkably, began patronizing the very Persian arts and architecture they had once threatened. They were followed by Timur, or Tamerlane, a brutal conqueror who simultaneously destroyed cities and turned Isfahan into a breathtaking center of beauty. Iran possessed a unique, almost mystical ability. It did not defeat its conquerors through military might on the battlefield. Instead, it seduced them with its sophisticated civilization. By the time the Mongol and Timurid eras concluded, the invaders had become more Persian than the Persians themselves. 6. The Safavid transformation, the birth of modern Iran. In 1501, a charismatic teenage warrior named Ismail I rode victoriously into the city of Tabriz and declared himself Shah. This pivotal moment marked the founding of the Safavid dynasty, a lineage that would fundamentally redefine Iran's modern religious and political identity. By forcibly converting the population to Shia Islam, Ismail I created a powerful spiritual boundary that distinguished Iran from its formidable Sunni neighbors, the Ottoman Empire to the west and the Mughals to the east. The Safavid era reached its cultural and geopolitical peak under the visionary rule of Shah Abbas the Great. In 1598, he moved the imperial capital to Isfahan, transforming it into a masterpiece of urban planning. The city became so magnificent that it inspired the famous Persian proverb, Esfahan, Nesfe Jahan, meaning Isfahan is half the world. At the heart of this new Isfahan was the Nakshe Jahan Square, a sprawling complex of turquoise-tiled mosques, royal palaces, and vibrant bazaars that re-established Iran as a premier global hub for international trade, philosophy, and high art. More importantly, the Safavids successfully transformed Iran into a unified, centralized state, finally ending the long centuries of tribal fragmentation and foreign occupation that had followed the Mongol collapse. 7. The Great Game and the Qajar decline. The 18th and 19th centuries represented a period of painful and prolonged decline for the Persian world. Following the collapse of the Safavids, a series of short-lived and turbulent dynasties emerged. Most notable were the Afsharids, under the brilliant yet exceptionally bloody Nader Shah, who managed to temporarily restore Persian military power through daring conquests as far as India. However, by the time the Qajar dynasty secured the throne, the global landscape had fundamentally shifted. Europe had rapidly industrialized, gaining massive technological and economic advantages, while Iran remained a traditional agrarian society. Consequently, Iran became a helpless pawn in the Great Game, a tense geopolitical struggle between the Russian Empire to the north and the British Empire to the south. The Qajar monarchs were often remarkably weak, frequently signing away Iran's precious sovereignty and natural resources in exchange for foreign loans to fund their own lavish lifestyles and European travels. They granted sweeping concessions to European powers for everything from tobacco and telegraphs to the rights for mineral exploration, and eventually, oil. Humiliated by significant territorial losses and a stagnant, dependent economy, the Iranian people began to push back with unprecedented unity. In 1905, the constitutional revolution erupted as merchants, religious clerics, and modern intellectuals joined forces to demand a parliament, or the Majlis, and a formal rule of law. This was the first democratic movement of its kind in the Middle East, a clear sign that the ancient King of Kings model was finally cracking under the immense weight of modern demands and national frustration. 8. The Pahlavi era, modernization from above. In 1921, amidst the profound geopolitical chaos following World War I, a disciplined and ambitious soldier named Reza Khan seized control of a fractured nation. By 1925, he had formally deposed the last Qajar monarch and crowned himself Reza Shah Pahlavi, establishing what would be the final imperial dynasty of Iran. Much like his contemporary Mustafa Kemal Ataturk in Turkey, Reza Shah was a secular nationalist who sought to modernize his country through sheer force of will. His reign was defined by massive infrastructural projects, most notably the construction of the Trans-Iranian Railway, the centralization of a modern professional military, and the establishment of a national judicial system. In an effort to break from the decayed image of the past, he even officially requested that the international community use the name Iran, the ancient name used by its people, instead of the Greek-derived Persia. His son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, ascended the throne in 1941 during the height of World War II. Heavily supported by Western powers, he eventually launched the White Revolution in the 1960s. This was a sweeping, top-down program designed to transform Iran into a global power through land reform, rapid industrialization, and the granting of women's suffrage. By the mid-1970s, fueled by skyrocketing oil revenues, Iran possessed the most sophisticated military force in the region and had become a glittering playground for the global elite. However, this rapid westernization came at a staggering social and political cost. To maintain absolute control, the Shah relied on Savak, a notorious secret police force that brutally suppressed any form of political dissent through censorship, imprisonment, and torture. While the urban middle class in Tehran became increasingly wealthy and westernized, the traditional religious classes and the rural poor felt culturally alienated and economically ignored. This internal tension was exacerbated by the memory of the 1953 coup d'etat, when the popular, democratically minded Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh attempted to nationalize Iran's British-controlled oil industry. The CIA and MI6 orchestrated his overthrow to restore the Shah's absolute power. This moment of foreign intervention left a permanent, festering scar of anti-Western sentiment and distrust that would eventually provide the ideological fuel for a total systemic collapse. 9. The 1979 Revolution and the Islamic Republic. By 1978, the pressure became unbearable. A diverse coalition of Marxists, liberals, and Islamists took to the streets. The central figure of the opposition was an exiled cleric, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. In early 1979, the Shah fled the country, and the monarchy, an institution 2,500 years old, collapsed in a matter of weeks. The revolution was quickly monopolized by the religious wing of the movement. The new Islamic Republic was a unique and controversial experiment. The 1979 hostage crisis at the U.S. Embassy turned Iran into a pariah in the West. Soon after, Saddam Hussein's Iraq invaded, sparking a horrific 8-year war. This war, while devastating, allowed the new government to consolidate power and foster a siege mentality that defined the nation for decades. 10. The modern frontier, a land of contradictions. Today, Iran is a land of profound contrasts. It is a regional power with a highly educated, young, and internet-savvy population. Yet it lives under a conservative clerical establishment that governs through strict religious law. In recent years, movements like the Woman Life Freedom protests have highlighted the deep disconnect between the aspirations of the youth and the policies of the state. Iran continues to navigate its role on the global stage, facing international sanctions and internal economic struggles, all while sitting on some of the world's largest oil and gas reserves. From the first human rights charter of Cyrus to the complex politics of today, Iran's history is a cycle of brilliant peaks and devastating valleys. It is a culture that has been invaded by Greeks, Arabs, Mongols, and Turks, yet it has managed to Persianize almost every one of them. As the world looks toward the future, The story of Iran remains what it has always been, a testament to the resilience of a people who refuse to be forgotten.